Hello viewers, you're welcome to episode 2 of your program, Learn at Home, brought to you by Kampala Parents School and NTV. My name is Babinga Moses. So to begin with is episode 2 of your program. We received so many assignments from wherever you are, from different areas of the country. So let me begin by mentioning names of some of you who submitted your work. One is Nazeba Abdul Latifa from Busorwe in Butaleja. We received your work. We are going to give you responses. Joy Mbazize Subira from Cornerstone Junior School, Mukono. We are with you. Another one is Nagalama Daniel from Masaka. Thank you. We received your work. You're going to get your responses. Another one is Elbert Semakula and the sister Elisi Namakula, P5. We received your work. You're going to get our responses. Abigail Tushemereri from P5 class. You not indicate the school and the area. We received your work. You're going to get your response. Segawa Ryan from Rise of Hope in Ichengera. We received your work. Thank you for viewing this program. Kemigisha Nadia, we got your work. You not indicate where you are. Another one is Mary Babirie Kemba, P6 at St. Teresa, Namiriango Girls. You not indicate the area. Kahinda Aldrin, Blessed Community School in Hoima. You didn't indicate. You did not answer number 1. We got your assignment. There are many of you. There is Kafero Darren, Seta Junior School.
My name is Kafero Darren. I am in P7 of Seta Junior School, and this is my assignment.
My name is Wamala Shazil Muksa from Uganda Matters Primary School, Rubaga. I have just sent my WhatsApp video for the work that teacher Babinga Moses has just left for us, the primary 7 learners.
My name is Nabeja Sierra. Shukran. My school is Friendside Primary School. It's found at Watson. My SST teacher is Teacher Hammer. The following questions you gave us, I answered them. The first question is, name the plant cover that grows on its own. I pressed natural vegetation. State any one importance of vegetation. I pressed we get firewood for sale. How does vegetation modify climate? It influences the weather. How is vegetation important to our health? It provides herbal medicine. Give anyone where trees planted in our surrounding prevent the effect of bad weather. It acts as windbreak. I remain as Navega Sierra Shukran, Friendswood Primary School.
And many others. I can't complete all of them, but we got a lot of work from different people from different areas of Uganda. But here we are going to make corrections, and we shall look at some of the responses of different people. Number 1 was name the plant cover that grows on its own. The answer is simple. Natural vegetation. Number 1. Natural vegetation. Number 2, state anyone commercial importance of vegetation. Most of you, when it came to this number, you failed to add the element economic, because we said you must look at the element for sale. Most of you were just giving us importances of vegetation, and of which they could not count. Like when we were looking at this, we emphasized the element for sale. So there are very many answers, but you can write just 1 or 2. 1, we are saying Vegetation. Vegetation is a source of herbal medicine. The source of herbal medicine for cell. The element for cell was not seen by many of you who submitted your work. Another answer we can talk about, you can say vegetation. Vegetation is a source of timber for cell. The source of timber for cell. The emphasis was on cell since we're talking about commercial importance. When you look at Masanga, Jeremiah, P6, Mother Manjeri, this is your work. You when you're writing the word formation, you were breaking letters in one word. So next time, look at that and see how you can go about it. So number 3 is, how does vegetation modify climate? Some of you never actually go to understand the meaning of the word modify. To modify is to make something better. So when we say vegetation helps in rain formation. Vegetation helps in rain what? Formation. Vegetation helps in rain formation. Most of you were breaking the word formation, which actually when you look at it is one word, but most of you were breaking. Somebody wrote, can even indicate or show, but it's not good. Let me just clarify it in general. Let's go to number 4. Number 4, the question was, how is vegetation important to our health? So we shall say, vegetation is a source of herbal medicine. Vegetation is a source of herbal medicine. Vegetation is a source of food. That's the right answer. Vegetation is a source of food. Since you see some people who lack some food values and you can see them emaciating, but we are saying vegetation is a source of food. Vegetation is a source of herbal medicine. So we are coming to the last number, which is number 5. However, there is somebody who failed the spelling of the word herbal. Take a note of it. I know you're following wherever you are. I don't want to mention your name. Maybe you feel demoralized. But check the spelling of herbal. Number 5, give and one-way trees in our surroundings. Prevent the effect of bad weather. So when you are talking about bad weather, we shall look at drought. We shall look at strong wind, which can destroy our buildings and crops. So we shall say trees act as wind breaks. Trees act as wind breaks. The last answer we can talk about, trees help in rain formation. So we are looking at how trees help to reduce the effect of bad weather. So we have said trees act as wind breaks because strong wind can come and breaks our houses. Trees help in rain formation. By helping in rain formation, it's helping to control the effect of drought. When it comes to the spelling of breaks, there is somebody whom I may not want to mention the name, but somebody wrote on the word breaks, somebody wrote the word wind. Wind breaks, like this. This word breaks when maybe you're riding a bike and you brake. Maybe you're driving a car and you apply the brakes. So this was wrong. It's supposed to be this. So last time we looked at vegetation, and we are still continuing with our topic, vegetation of Africa. And we started by looking at the previous work about vegetation. So we are just proceeding, looking at vegetation. So today we are just adding on from where we stopped. So we are looking at examples of planted forests in Uganda. So we can have our subtopic here on the board. So examples of planted forests. Examples of planted forests in Uganda. And since it's a P5 topic, we are not going to look at it so much. We shall just remind ourselves of one or two examples of planted forests we have in Uganda. Then we proceed with our topic. So I'm coming back to you, telling me examples of the planted forests we have in Uganda. Yes, you know, I know you have them in different areas wherever you are in your locality. Yes, Samson in your sitting room, tell us one. Yes, Lendu Forest, it's found in West Nile. Lendu Forest. Good. Any other? Yes, I'm coming back to you. Any other? Yes, Irare. Good. You're saying Mafuga Forest. Mafuga Forest. Good. Any other? I'm coming back to you. You know, we are now studying in our sitting room. Yes, any other? Yes, Bugamba. We have Bugamba Forest. Bugamba Forest. Good. Another one? Yes. Yeah, I know most of you are willing to communicate with me. I'm happy. Lastly, we can have Magamaga Forest. Like I told you, we shall have just a few of the examples of planted forests in Uganda. And since, like we said, it's a topic of low primary P4, P5, we shall end it at that and look at our other sub-topic. And there we are going to look at factors that influence the vegetation of an area. So we can have our subtopic about factors that influence vegetation. Factors that influence vegetation. Even when we leave it there, it's okay, or we can add of any area. Of any area, it's okay. Can underline our subheading. Factors that influence vegetation of any area. So we are going to look at factors, but before we look at factors that influence vegetation of an area, we need to understand our subheading. Our subheading is factors that influence vegetation of an area, and we are going to look at the keywords in our subheading, so as we are able to understand it before we look at the factors. When I come to our heading, we have influence. We can use some other alternative words like affect, determine. Then when we look at vegetation, we said is the plant cover of any area. So we are going to look at those factors. One, I'm coming back to you. Yes, tell us. Yes, Bernard in your sitting room, tell us one. Good, you can talk about altitude. And we need to understand altitude in depth. We shall begin by defining what altitude is. Yes, what is altitude? I know most of you have learned about it in P4, P5. Yes, altitude is the height of land above sea level. Is the height of land above sea level. We're just having it for purposes of reminding ourselves, and those may not have known it. But we remember we are looking at altitude in relation to vegetation. So how does the height of land above sea level influence vegetation? So we shall look at, when you look at mountain vegetation, mostly determinists, we are having a sample of a diagram. When you move at different altitude, vegetation keeps changing. So down you have grassland, forest, bamboo, have grassland, forest, bamboo, we have moorland and heath, we have the rocks, then we have maybe ice. So when you move up on a mountain or down on a mountain, depending on different altitude, vegetation keeps changing. So we shall come and say, now we are looking at altitude in relation to factors that influence vegetation. So we shall say the vegetation, or we can change and say the plant cover. If you don't want to use the word vegetation, we can say the plant cover. The plant cover changes as altitude increases or decreases, whatever you can take, it's okay. So as altitude decreases, or one can say increases, as altitude increases or decreases. So we have looked at one factor which influences vegetation, and that's altitude. We started by defining it. Now we have looked at how it influences vegetation. So we are looking at another one now. Yes, I'm coming back to you. Tell us, yes, Mwanje, in your sitting room, tell us another one. Good. Fertility of the soil. Fertility of the soil. So, fertility of the soil. So when we talk about fertility of the soil, that's actually, let me underline our factors that we are able to, really differentiate them from some other information we are elaborating about the factors that influence vegetation of Africa or of any area. So, one, fertility of the soil. So when looking at how fertility of the soil influences vegetation, you see areas that have fertile soils have more vegetation than areas that have infertile soils. So when you look at, I have some examples of vegetation with me. I think this is a branch of one of the flowers we have, and this is also a branch also of flowers we have in our compound, and this is what we are talking about. So when you look at this kind of branch, it has been taken from an area which receives a lot of rainfall, and you're seeing the nature of leaves. It's looking healthy. But now when you look at this one, also when you look at the way it appears, some kind of rough. So that's what we are talking about. The second factor is fertility of the soil. And so we are saying places that have fertile soils have a lot of vegetation than places that have infertile soils. Places that have fertile soils have a lot of vegetation, than places with infertile than places with infertile soils. So this is our second point. So we are coming to the third one, and we are naming it C. Yes, any other? I'm coming back to you. I know you must have looked at this, and now you know you're conversant about it. Any other factor you can talk about? Yes, climate. Can talk about climate. And we looked at climate because it was our previous topic. So I know you know how to define it. We shall begin by defining it before we go to some other ways it influences the vegetation. So we are beginning to define climate as climate is the average weather. The average weather condition is the average of the weather conditions of so climate is the average weather conditions of a place. The average weather conditions of a place recorded. Average weather conditions of a place, recorded for a long time. Recorded for a long time. So, having now known or reminded ourselves about the definition of climate, now we are going to look at how climate influences vegetation. So, anybody who can tell us, yes, Bridget in your sitting room, tell us how does climate influence vegetation distribution of an area? Yes. So we shall say, when looking at climate, we shall look at it basing on the two aspects of climate. One is rainfall, another one is temperature. But this time around, when looking at the factors that influence climate, we shall look at it in relation to rainfall. So here, one can say climate, one can say rainfall distribution. It's okay. So we are going to say places that receive a lot of rainfall. Places that receive a lot of rainfall have a lot of vegetation. Places that receive a lot of rainfall have a lot of vegetation. So we shall give examples of these places. Yes, tell me one of the places that receive a lot of rainfall and have a lot of vegetation. Yes. Can hear one saying places around the shores of Lake Victoria, places around Mabira Forest, and in the Equatorial region of DRC. When you look at the Equatorial region of DRC, you look at our map here, the Equatorial region of DRC, I'm putting our map here above. When you look at the Equatorial region, mostly around here, Equatorial region or central part of Africa here, it receives a lot of rainfall because there's a rate of evaporation and transpiration, so it has a lot of vegetation. And that's what we are looking at. That's one way climate influences vegetation. So the Equatorial region around here, and in Uganda, we can look at areas around the shores of Lake Victoria. So from there, we shall go ahead and look at our fourth factor, which influences the vegetation of an area. Yes, viewers, tell us another one. Good. Human activities. Human activities. Human activities. That's also underline our factors. Human activities. Human activities. How do human activities influence the vegetation of any area? I'm listening from you. Yes. One is saying, looking at examples of the human activities, telling me the positive and the negative. Yes, positive. One is saying afforestation. One is saying agroforestry, reforestation, swamp reclamation. Those are some of the positive human activities. Then in negative, anybody who can tell us any negative? Yes, one is saying deforestation, good. overgrazing. So when you look at those factors you have been talking about, so we shall begin by singling one, or you can generalize. One can say afforestation increases the amount of vegetation in an area. Deforestation reduces the amount of vegetation in any area. Or one can generalize and say positive human activities like agroforestry, forestation increase the amount of vegetation in any area. So let's organize our chart and we move on. Yeah, good. So we can begin by singling, or we can generalize, but for me I'm singling out. So you're saying afforestation. Afforestation increases vegetation. Afforestation increases vegetation in any area. And what's afforestation? Yes, yeah, it's the planting of trees in an area where they have never existed. So we have said afforestation increases vegetation in an area. Good. One can say deforestation. Deforestation reduces vegetation in an area. So what's deforestation? Yes, Mukasa in your sitting room. Good. Deforestation is the cutting down of trees on a large scale without replacing. In the case of any message, any inquiry you want to make, WhatsApp us on that number on the screen. So let us proceed with our factors that influence vegetation of Africa. Lastly, we are looking at government policy. So be ready to tell us how government policies influence vegetation of an area. So government policy. So here I am. I'm coming back to you, viewers. How do you think government policy influences vegetation of an area? Yes, tell us. Yeah, somebody is saying some areas have been gazetted by the government to be used as forests. So in some areas, human settlement is not allowed. The government says we are going to use this place as our game park areas, game reserves. So that's one way we can look at how government policy influences vegetation. So you're saying the government sets apart. The government sets, one can say aside, one can say apart. The government sets apart some areas for natural forests. Natural forests. That's why you see some people who settle in forested areas like Manimavira, the government can send them away, and you have seen it happening. So by so doing, they are preserving or they are promoting vegetation growth. So we have looked at factors that influence vegetation of Africa. So we are going to look at vegetation zones of Africa. And now we are beginning to look at P7 work. We are now moving away from work of low primary, which you looked at. Now we are beginning the work of P7 mostly. So we are looking at vegetation zones of Africa. Excuse me. Vegetation zones of Africa. Vegetation zones of Africa. And vegetation zones of Africa can also be called types of natural vegetation. So let me put it, types of natural vegetation. Good. Let me underline our subheading. Is our work. So, vegetation zones of Africa, we shall begin by defining what a vegetation zone is. Then we move ahead to look at various examples of them. So, shall have our question here. What is a vegetation zone? What is a vegetation zone? Question mark. Yes, what's a vegetation zone? Yes, Fortunate, in your sitting room, tell us the answer. Yeah, a vegetation zone is an area, one can call it a region, which has a specific type of vegetation according to the average rainfall and temperature which is experienced in that area, like we are going to see them. So we are saying is a region, or one can call it an area, is a region with a specific or with a certain type of vegetation according to average rainfall, and temperature. So we are saying a vegetation zone is a region with a certain type of vegetation according to the average rainfall and temperature, like we are going to look at various examples of vegetation zones of Africa. So before we begin to list them down, I will come back to you and tell me some of them. Yes. William, in your sitting room, tell us one. Yes. He's saying Savanna vegetation. Good. Any other? Equatorial. So let us come and look at them in detail on our map. So we can come at our map and look at this map of Africa showing examples of the vegetation zones of Africa. So we shall begin by looking at the common ones which we have learned in East Africa, in Uganda, which we experience. Then we go on looking at those which we do not experience in East Africa. So one, shall begin by looking at Savannah, which is common with everyone. Savanna vegetation is this one which covers the largest part of Africa. I think everyone can see. It also covers the largest part of East Africa because East Africa is around here. It also covers the largest part of Uganda because it's also around there. So one, I've looked at Savanna vegetation. I think everyone can see it within here, this space here. From Savannah, yes, tell us any other. One is saying Equatorial, and Equatorial is this one we have as A. It covers the largest part of Central Africa. Everyone can see. I think DRC is around here. Mostly the largest part of DRC is covered by Equatorial vegetation. Even some part of West Africa here is having Equatorial vegetation. So I think when we come and look at B here, this is semi-desert. Semi-desert vegetation is that kind of vegetation which is neighboring deserts. So this is, you can see C is desert vegetation, and this is Sahara Desert. Then here also, those areas that are neighboring deserts have semi-desert vegetation. These areas close the deserts you can see above here. You see these are areas that are near becoming what? Deserts. So we have looked at B as semi-desert, C as desert, everyone can see. B again here because it's close the desert from the other part above. So when we come to look at this part here, E is Mediterranean vegetation. We have it here in the northwest of Africa and the southwest of Africa. We have Mediterranean here, Mediterranean vegetation, and Mediterranean vegetation here. We also have temperate vegetation in South Africa. around here, we have temperate vegetation. Temperate vegetation is experienced there in South Africa, around Drakensberg. So, and lastly, we have mangrove vegetation, which is found around the East African coast. Around the East African coast, we have mangrove vegetation, which is experienced in the salty waters of East Africa. We have mangrove. It grows in the salty waters of East Africa, and we shall elaborate more about it. So this is a map of Africa having the vegetation zones of Africa. And like we said, these areas, like see here is Sahara Desert. There is desert vegetation. Even here where we have Namib Desert, we have still desert vegetation, and Kalahari Desert within the interior of South Africa. There is also desert vegetation. So that's our map. Now we shall come down here and we begin elaborating to all listing them down as we elaborate about them. So let me wrap down here. So examples of vegetation zones of Africa, one can call them types of natural vegetation. Types of natural vegetation. So, like I've been talking about them, I'm just listing them down here. We have discussed them already to have our workflow, because I know there are those who are writing whatever we are discussing, and those who are following us, wherever they are. So one, we said Savannah. And for Savannah vegetation, we have various spellings of Savannah we can have. So let me wrap here, and we have various spellings of Savannah, which we have that kind of spelling. So even this one where somebody writes double N without the H can also be taken. Another one can also write Savannah with double N and H can also be taken. Or one can also write single N and H. All these ones are spellings of Savannah we can take up. So one, we have written Savannah vegetation. Savannah vegetation. Another one we are writing, this one we have here in A as Equatorial vegetation. And equatorial vegetation can also be called equatorial rainforest or tropical rainforest. So there are various ways we can refer to it. One can call it equatorial vegetation. Another one can refer to it as equatorial rainforest. Another one can call it tropical rainforest. All those are various ways we refer to equatorial vegetation. So we can go ahead and look at another one. I think we also are checking and revisiting our map. So B, we said it is semi-desert vegetation. Semi-desert vegetation. And since we have semi-desert, we can also write desert, which have there as C. Also have desert vegetation. Desert vegetation. From desert, we can also have Mediterranean vegetation. Mediterranean. I told you the simplest way we can write hard or complicated spellings by stressing or pronouncing as you write. So Mediterranean, you can even break it down, Mediterranean, and that's how easily you can write it. So Mediterranean vegetation. So Mediterranean vegetation. We come back to our map. So far I've looked at savanna, equatorial, semi-desert, desert, Mediterranean. Now you can come and look at temperate. Temperate vegetation, and it's mostly found in South Africa. And Mediterranean vegetation is the type of vegetation which is found outside the tropics. And when we say outside the tropics, we mean outside the Tropic of Cancer, which is here, and the Tropic of Capricorn. So Mediterranean is a type of natural vegetation which is found outside the tropics, like it's found outside the Tropic of Capricorn and, outside the Tropic of Cancer above and outside the Tropic of Capricorn down. So it's Mediterranean vegetation which we find outside the tropics. So we're still looking at the types of natural vegetation or the vegetation zones of Africa. So I think let us number them. Let us number them and see where we are so far, because we have 8 types of natural vegetation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's come the 7th, and lastly we shall have the 8th. Yes, any other telling me? One is saying mangrove, good. That one has been following us. So I have mangrove vegetation. Mangrove vegetation. Reject mangrove with double O. It's not there. There are some who are fond of writing mangrove with double O. This is wrong. You reject it. You have single O for mangrove. So after mangrove, let us look at the last one. Yes, any other? Good. One is saying mountain. So we have mountain. One can call it mountain. Mountain or mountain vegetation. And that one is done we find in mountainous areas. So we have mountain or mountain vegetation. So we have looked at the various vegetation zones of Africa, all types of natural vegetation. When they talk about types of vegetation, remember we looked at 2 types of vegetation. That's planted and natural. Now we are looking at types of natural vegetation, and we have 8 in Africa. So having looked at that, we are going to look at why do we have different types of vegetation in Africa. Why does vegetation vary from place to place? Can come to a map and see why do we have savanna vegetation, we have equatorial vegetation, semi-desert, desert, Mediterranean, mangrove, and why don't we have all Africa having one type of vegetation, and it is, say, equatorial. The whole of Africa is having equatorial or desert. Those are the factors we are going to look at. So why does, a simple question, why does vegetation vary from place to place? Or they can ask you the same question, why do we have different types of vegetation in Africa? Or give any one factor which causes variation in the vegetation zones in Africa or Uganda. One can say East Africa. So the answer is very simple. Let us first underline our question, or we don't need it to. Let us underline our question because it is very important. You must be thinking about the factors for the variation of vegetation. Any other? Good. One is saying due to different altitude. Due to different altitude. Due to different altitude. Like you can see, when you say due to different altitude, you can look at this map I have here, this diagram. When you look at this diagram, when we say due to different altitude, when you look at the ground part of it, we have grassland. Then when you move, the altitude increases, we come to forests. Then as altitude increases, we come to bamboo, heath, rocks, ice rock, or bare rocks. This is what we are talking about. This is one of the factors that cause variation in climate of Africa or an area. Another one can talk about difference in human activities. Difference in human activities. Difference in human activities. When you go to some other areas, people have carried out deforestation. Some people have carried out bush burning, afforestation, swamp reclamation. So those are some of the factors also that can cause the vegetation to vary from place to place. Another one you can talk about due to difference in climate. So different places have different climate. So, and so many more, but you have to look at these factors that influence what? Vegetation. Those are the factors that cause variation in vegetation of an area. So, having looked at factors that cause variation of climate of an area, we are going to begin by looking at each vegetation zone or each type of vegetation as we have them here. You can move in this order or you can begin looking at them at random. But let's move in order, like we have Savanna Vegetation. You can underline it here. And we begin to look at it in depth. Savanna Vegetation. So when looking at Savanna Vegetation, we have already seen that Savanna Vegetation covers the largest part of Africa, like everyone can see. It also covers the largest part of Uganda or the largest part of East Africa. So when they ask you a question, name that type of natural vegetation which covers the largest part of Uganda. The answer is Savanna Vegetation. So, shall begin by looking at types of savanna. We have two types of savanna. One, we have savanna, we have savanna grassland, grassland, and in savanna grassland, like the word grassland suggests, there is a lot of grass and scattered trees. So you are saying there is a lot of grass. There is a lot of grass. There is a lot of grass and scattered trees. Then the last type of savanna we have is savanna woodland. Savanna woodland. So, in savanna woodland, the way the word woodland suggests, there is a lot of trees and little grass. So you are saying there is a lot of trees. There is a lot of trees and little grass. And an example of savanna woodland is central part of Tanzania, which is Miombo woodland. Miombo woodland of central Tanzania is an example we can take For savanna woodland, there is a lot of trees and little grass. And that's why you see some of the major economic activities in Miombo woodland. One, can talk about beekeeping, tourism, lumbering, due to the presence of trees. So from there, we can go ahead to look at reasons why most animals are found in savanna. Why are most animals found in savanna? Why are most animals found in savanna region? Why are most animals found in savanna region? Or one can say tropical region, can also work. One can say savanna region, tropical region. Let's say, why are most animals found in tropical region? So, one, any other? Tell us, anybody watching and enjoying the lesson? Good. There is enough grass for animals. There is enough grass for animals. There is enough space for free movement of animals. So there is enough space. There is enough space for movement. There's enough space for movement of animals. I think that's why most animals are found in tropical region, and that's why most game parks are found in tropical region. So in the tropical region is where we have savanna vegetation. So lastly, we are going to have a simple exercise coming from what we have been learning. So we can have it here. So, which type of natural vegetation is found along the coastal area of East Africa? Number one, which type of natural vegetation is found along the coastal area of East Africa? That's number one. Number two, what is a vegetation? What is a vegetation zone? Number three, how does deforestation affect vegetation? How does deforestation affect vegetation distribution? How does deforestation affect vegetation distribution? Number four, which type of natural vegetation is found outside the tropics. Which type of natural vegetation is found outside the tropics? Number 5. Number 5, which is the last question we have. State any one factor that influences. State any factor that influences vegetation of any area. So those are our questions in the activity. You attempt them. You send the answers. So let us come back and look through our activity and we get to understand the question is. Number 1, which type of natural vegetation is found along the coastal area of East Africa? Then number 2, what is a vegetation zone? Number 3, how does deforestation affect vegetation distribution? Number 4, which type of natural vegetation is found outside the tropics? Number 5, state any one factor that influences vegetation of an area. So I think you attempt them. You'll find it easy in answering them because I know you've been following. After answering them, send your answers, wherever you are. Send your answers through that number which is on the screen. You can either send a WhatsApp message or a message, but don't call. Thank you for being good viewers of this lesson. This is Learn at Home, brought to you by Kampala Parents and NTV. I remain Babinga Moses, your teacher of SST.
To participate, send a short WhatsApp video of yourself asking the teacher a question about the topic to 0705 031 609.